So just when you think things couldn't possibly get any worse for the Cleveland Browns, their best player requested a trade today. However, things are very complicated with this situation, and in today's video, I'll break down not only why that is, but where Myles Garrett could maybe potentially end up. So I've got to talk about that, the Pro Bowl games continuing to be a joke, a couple new OCs hired, and more right after. Alright, first up, before we get to the biggest news of the day involving Myles Garrett, the Pro Bowl games took place over the weekend in Orlando. I'm sure only 10% of you, that's being generous, 3% of you maybe watched any of these games or the flag football game yesterday. So here's a very quick recap for most of you who didn't. There was a whole bunch of skills competitions like tug of war and precision passing, and the scores of all those were being added up leading up to the actual Pro Bowl flag football game. The Pro Bowl just is what it is at this point. Players don't want to risk injury, so they're not going to be out there actually hitting each other. And the league still makes money off this event once a year, so I'm not really sure this lame event is going away or changing anytime soon. But as far as the game goes, the NFC won 56-50, which put them ahead 76-63 with all the events combined. Jared Goff won offensive MVP, going 10 of 11 for 126 yards and 3 touchdowns. Plus, he also had the high score in the precision passing challenge, so it was a great Pro Bowl win for him, for what that's worth. Vikings corner Byron Murphy took home the defensive MVP after getting the better of Drake May on a pick 6. And the NFC players netted themselves a smooth $92K for getting the win, while the AFC players still got $46,000. This is the third year in a row that the NFC has won, by the way, and ultimately I am happy that players get the money, and it still does help bolster their resumes over the years after all. Next up, Pete Carroll continues to build up his staff with the Raiders, and he landed himself a pretty big fish, hiring Chip Kelly to be the new offensive coordinator. And get this, Vegas is giving him $6 million per year, which makes him the highest paid offensive coordinator in football, literally double the salary of Todd Monken and Mike Kafka, who were previously the highest paid. Kelly was most recently the offensive coordinator at Ohio State and is fresh off a national championship. Before that, he was the head coach at UCLA from 2018 to 2023, where they went 35-34 during his tenure. This isn't his first stint in the NFL either. Most of you know he was the head coach of the Eagles from 2013 to 2015, actually making the playoffs the first year and going 10-6 each of his first 2 seasons. But they started the 2015 season 6-9 and fired him before the last game of the year. He then got hired by the Niners the following year, but was fired after they finished 2-14. And believe it or not, this will be his first time ever in the NFL not being a head coach and just being a coordinator. So maybe he'll find some more success just heading up the offense and not running the entire team. The Raiders got themselves the big name minority owner / partner in Tom Brady, the big name head coach in Pete Carroll, and now the big name OC in Chip Kelly. And all that is fine and dandy, but I'm afraid the success of the entire franchise is going to depend on whether or not they can actually find a legitimate quarterback. Now, the Raiders weren't the only ones to fill their offensive coordinator vacancy, as the Texans also made a hire. They hired former Rams tight end coach and pass game coordinator Nick Caley to be their new offensive coordinator. Caley started at the college level in 2007, then worked his way up with the Patriots as an assistant from 2016 to 2022 before spending the last 2 years on staff with the Rams. He's never been a coordinator at any level, so this will be his first shot at calling plays in his almost 20-year coaching career. But as the pass game coordinator with the Rams, he was definitely in the room and helping contribute to the weekly game plan. Plus, with him being on the Rams, he's obviously of the Sean McVay coaching tree. The guy is the 3rd youngest head coach in the NFL, but already has multiple former assistants out there heading up teams of their own. Brandon Staley was with the Chargers, but obviously he gone. That didn't work out. However, you have Kevin O'Connell with the Vikings, Liam Cohen. Listen to this clip of him trying to say Duval.
Duval.
Hilarious. He's now with the Jags. Then, of course, Matt LaFleur with the Packers and Zach Taylor is with the Bengals. In summary, a team who brings in a former McVay assistant coach normally tends to find some success. Caley will have a great opportunity in Houston with a young franchise quarterback, CJ Stroud, and a legit wide receiver 1 in Nico Collins. What they need to do is shore up the O-line, so if they can do that this offseason, then they can do a lot of damage on offense and, in theory, rebound after what was a disappointing season. At least from an offensive standpoint, their defense was incredible. And then let's move on, speaking of defense, and being incredible, to the biggest news of the day. Browns superstar defensive end Myles Garrett has officially requested a trade. The news broke this morning, accompanied by a statement released by Garrett himself, in which he expressed his love for the team and its fans, but ultimately went on to say his desire to win won't allow him to be complacent. He said, quote, "The goal was never to go from Cleveland to Canton. It has always been to compete for and win a Super Bowl. With that in mind, I have requested a trade from the Cleveland Browns." So yeah, that was somewhat shocking news, I guess. Maybe not as shocking as Luka being traded to the Lakers, but still, it's not every day that one of the best players in the entire league requests a trade publicly like that. However, it's not really that simple. Following the trade request going public, Jeremy Fowler of ESPN reported that the Browns' stance on Myles Garrett hasn't changed, and they have no plans to trade him. Their GM, Andrew Berry, was on record just last week saying he wouldn't even trade him for 2 first-round picks. And that could be a bit of a bluff and him just trying to maintain leverage for any potential future trade opportunities now that this is public with Garrett. But it's not hard to see why he would not want to move on from Garrett if that is indeed true. He is easily a top 5 edge rusher, probably top 2, and you could potentially make a case for him being number 1 if you wanted to. The guy has made 6 Pro Bowls, 4 All-Pro teams, and was the Defensive Player of the Year just last year. Since he came into the league in 2017, he has 103.5 sacks, which is second to only TJ Watt over that span, and he's played 5 less games than Watt. He's an absolute game wrecker and has been a major bright spot on a Browns team that has seen some pretty dark days, so it makes sense why they wouldn't want to trade him. But like Myles said himself, he wants to win Super Bowls. That's why one NFL executive told Dianna Russini that this isn't going to be a clean breakup. It's going to be a wild few weeks. But let's just say that the Browns do honor his request and try to work to facilitate some sort of a trade before next season. What would his actual value be, and who could be some potential suitors that might make sense? Well, to start, one anonymous GM thinks a first and a second rounder, or a first and a couple thirds would be realistic, but then said 3 firsts is out of the equation. Another anonymous executive, though, said they would give up 2 firsts and more to land Myles Garrett. Maybe that's a guy just pretending to be an NFL exec and it's really his agent. So I think it really just depends on the team's situation. And with a player of Garrett's caliber, certain teams may be more motivated to give up a lot and get him, especially if they feel they're just a piece away on defense from contending for a Super Bowl. Well, that's why I think a team like the Washington Commanders makes some sense here. They're a team on the rise that should be contenders every year with Jaden Daniels at the helm. Their best pass rusher this season was Dante Fowler, who had 10.5 sacks, but he's a free agent and is probably going to be looking to cash in on the season he just had. So they could cut bait with Fowler and bring in Garrett, or there may be a world where they could have both. The Commanders have the 3rd most cap space next season with a little over $82 million. That's important because Myles Garrett is likely going to want a new deal. So you got to give up draft capital and extend him. He's the 5th highest paid edge rusher right now, and he's making $9 million less than Nick Bosa per year, so a new deal probably needs done. Spotrac projects that new deal could look something like 4 years, $137 million, which would put him at $34.25 per year and would have him right ahead of Bosa. The Commanders can stomach that, though, with all their cap space, and that's the beauty of having a franchise quarterback on a rookie deal. Plus, the Browns may be hesitant to trade him to an AFC team, whereas with the Commanders, they obviously wouldn't have to worry about that. However, Bovado Sportsbook doesn't seem to think that matters at all. They just released betting odds on where Myles Garrett could end up, and the Bills and Eagles are tied for the favorites, with the Ravens and the Cardinals being right behind them. The Bills currently have negative $16 million in cap space heading into next season, though, and the Eagles only have $25 million, so I don't know how realistic that would be for either team. They are obviously contenders, though, and would gladly welcome him to the D-line. Shoot, I would welcome him to Kansas City. I have zero say of what Brett Veach does, but could you imagine Chris Jones, Karlaftis, and Myles Garrett? It's not realistic. Not happening. I get it. Most teams are going to be intrigued, or fans of teams are going to be intrigued, and there's only really probably going to be a couple of main teams pursuing him. And finally, this news is big enough that I do feel the need to talk about it, even though it's pretty scummy and allegedly disgusting. Most of you are probably aware of the Justin Tucker situation by now, but it's worth giving the updates we do have on the situation now that it's been a few days. In short, 6 massage therapists from 4 different high-end wellness spas accused Tucker of inappropriate sexual behavior that took place sometime between the years 2012 in 2016. What's crazy is the ladies were interviewed individually, with at least most of them not even knowing each other, and they had eerily similar experiences with Justin Tucker. I'll leave the link to the article in the description down below if you want to know all the details, but it's just very similar experiences, and it was allegedly pretty gross stuff, to say the least. There's a lot I could say about the situation, but gross is definitely one of the words you could use. He was reportedly banned from multiple locations in the Baltimore area, by the way, and multiple tweets surfaced from back in 2021 confirming this was a well-known thing in that area. Well, the same day these allegations were made public, Tucker posted this statement on X refuting all of the allegations and saying it's nothing but desperate tabloid fodder. Since then, though, 3 more therapists have accused him of misconduct, and that was just on Saturday. Sounds like they are also alleging that those incidents took place around the same time frame, I believe in 2015. So it fits the bill and the connection with all the other experiences from the other ladies. Now, there's been no word from Tucker on these new claims, but his lawyer said refer back to his original statement that he posted on his X account. NFL spokesman Brian McCarthy said they take any allegation like this seriously and will look into the matter. Then the Ravens issued a statement last Thursday to the initial allegations saying they're continuing to monitor the situation as well. I'm not sure what legal repercussions Tucker could find himself facing. Maybe something, but possibly maybe nothing, depending on how it all plays out in court, if it even goes there. Regardless, the NFL is going to look into this, and they definitely could suspend him over all these allegations. Let's be honest, though. If Deshaun Watson is still in the NFL, I mean, he might be done after tearing his Achilles twice just recently, but if he's still in the NFL after he settled over 20 lawsuits featuring similar allegations, then I would assume Justin Tucker will still be kicking for some team down the road, even if it's no longer with the Baltimore Ravens. Of course, Watson is a quarterback, and he signed a massive guaranteed contract that basically made it impossible for the Browns to get out from underneath him. But Tucker, well, he's just a kicker. That's a little lower on the totem pole of importance of players, at least from a contractual standpoint. So we will see what happens at the end of the day, not literally at the end of the day, in the months to come. Of course, we got to let the legal process play out and all that, but yikes, it's not looking good for Tucker at this point in time, and honestly is just awful to even read about. Anyway, let me know your thoughts on what you think could end up happening to Justin Tucker, but also where you think Myles Garrett could end up getting traded, if anywhere at all. And with that, I'll see y'all next time.
Don't break the huddle.